In 1971, Richard Nixon went on television and told the world something that most people didn't fully understand at the time. He said the United States would no longer exchange dollars for gold. No big press conference, no dramatic music, just a calm announcement on a Tuesday night. And just like that, the money in your wallet became backed by nothing except a promise. Not gold, not silver, not land, a promise. Now here's the thing nobody tells you. That decision didn't just affect America. It affected every country on Earth because the dollar was the world's reserve currency, which meant the entire global financial system, every trade deal, every debt contract, every nation's savings was suddenly resting on the full faith and credit of one government. One government that, since that night, has printed over $30 trillion in debt. So, when someone says Bitcoin is crazy, when they say it's fake money, internet magic, a tulip bubble for tech bros, it's worth pausing and asking a very simple question. Compared to what? You're watching this because somewhere in the back of your mind, you've heard the pitch. Bitcoin is the future. Bitcoin fixes this. Bitcoin is sound money for a broken world. And maybe you half believe it, or maybe you think it's the biggest scam since someone sold Manhattan for $24 worth of beads. Either way, you're here because the question won't go away. Can Bitcoin actually replace money? Not just as a speculation, not just as a hedge, but as the thing you use to buy groceries, pay rent, send your kid to college. The answer is not what the believers want you to hear. It's not what the skeptics want either. It's messier than both. And that mess is exactly what we need to talk about. First, let's get something straight. We need to understand what money actually is, because most people have never stopped to think about it. Money is not valuable because it's rare. Gold was rare for thousands of years, and most of human history involved people bartering chickens for wheat. Money is not valuable because a government says so either. Zimbabwe had a government. Venezuela has a government. Their money became wallpaper. Money is valuable because of three things. It's a medium of exchange. People accept it for goods and services. It's a store of value. It holds its worth over time. And it's a unit of account. You can price things in it reliably. That's it. Job. Everything else is a story we tell ourselves to make the system work. Now here's the uncomfortable part. Not perfectly, not honestly, but well enough that the system keeps running. The question we need to ask is, does Bitcoin do those three jobs better, worse, or just differently? Bitcoin was born in 2008, right in the middle of the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Banks had packaged garbage mortgages into financial products and sold them as safe investments. The ratings agencies stamped them AAA. The regulators looked the other way. And when it all collapsed, governments bailed out the banks with public money. Millions of people lost their homes. Not one senior banker went to prison. 8 weeks after Lehman Brothers collapsed, someone or some group using the name Satoshi Nakamoto published a 9-page document, a white paper. It described a new kind of currency, one with no central authority, no bank, no government, no middleman, just math. The rules were written in code. There would only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. No exceptions, no emergency printing, no Tuesday night TV announcement from a politician. The supply was fixed forever. Now think about what that means for a second. Every dollar, euro, or pound that has ever existed was created by someone with the power to create more. Bitcoin was designed so that nobody has that power. Not the developers, not the miners, not the richest person on Earth. The scarcity is absolute. And that, to a lot of people, sounds like the most honest form of money ever invented. Here's how it actually works without the jargon. Imagine a ledger, a massive public spreadsheet that records every transaction ever made, who sent what to whom and when. Now imagine that ledger isn't stored in one bank's server.
It's copied across hundreds of thousands of computers around the world simultaneously. Everyone can see it, nobody controls it. When you send Bitcoin, your transaction gets broadcast to that network. A group of participants called miners compete to bundle recent transactions into a block and add it to the chain. To do that, they have to solve a computational puzzle, a kind of mathematical lottery. The winner gets newly created Bitcoin as a reward. This is called proof of work. It's deliberately expensive. It requires real energy, real hardware, real cost. And that cost is what makes cheating the system nearly impossible. To rewrite the ledger, you'd need to redo all that computational work faster than every other honest participant combined. No lawyers, no compliance officers, no regulators in suits who rotate through the revolving door into the banks they were supposed to oversee. Just math. And for the first time in human history, two strangers on opposite ends of the planet could exchange value without trusting each other, trusting a bank, or trusting a government. That is genuinely remarkable. But here's where the story gets complicated, because remarkable and functional are not the same thing. Let's talk about volatility. In 2017, Bitcoin went from under $1,000 to nearly $20,000. Then it crashed back to $3,000. In 2021, it hit $69,000, then fell to $15,000. In 2024, it crossed $100,000 for the first time. Try pricing your groceries in that. If a loaf of bread costs 0.00003 Bitcoin today and 0.000015 Bitcoin tomorrow, nobody knows what anything costs. Businesses can't plan, workers can't negotiate salaries. The unit of account, one of money's three jobs, becomes almost unusable. The believers have an answer for this. They say volatility is a feature of adaptation, not a bug. When Bitcoin is used by 8 billion people instead of a few 100 million speculators, the price will stabilize. The volatility will compress. It'll become digital gold. Maybe that's a coherent argument. But digital gold is not digital money. Gold has been sound money for 5,000 years, and we still abandoned it, twice. Because economies need a money supply that can flex. When a pandemic hits and 20 million people lose their jobs overnight, a government can push liquidity into the system. You can argue whether they do it wisely. They often don't, but the mechanism exists. Bitcoin doesn't have that mechanism by design. That's either its greatest strength or its most dangerous flaw, depending entirely on how much you trust the humans running the alternative. Now let's zoom into something that doesn't get talked about enough, the transaction problem. Bitcoin's base layer can process roughly 7 transactions per second.